Good to see you
See you.
again.
Yes.
Good seeing you.
Sorry.
All right, it's 8:30. Want to welcome everyone and call the meeting to order. Will you kindly stand and join me in our pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas
Texas
flag,
flag. Pledge allegiance.
since it is Texas,
One state under God,
one and indivisible. All right, anybody, no one, public comments this morning? No public. All right. Considering that request for adjustments, Mike, is there any adjustments at all? All right. Nothing at all. Okay, thank you. Consent agenda, move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Can we pull out item 7? We're gonna need to defer on that one this month. The Department of Labor is still working on a few of the wage rate scales. And so we'll just have to approve that resolution next month.
All right,
I'll move to approve, with the exception of item 7.
all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll second it
retroactively. I thought you did second. All right. Any opposed? Motion carries. Regular agenda, receive the Central Center River Authority report.
So Chris said he was gonna be here, but I will cover for him and Jimmy can help me out on a few of these. So I'm gonna go through a couple items and then we'll get into the wastewater strategic plan stuff. So first one I wanted to point out, page 33 in your packet. Revised a table for the water loss yearly recap. This is a rolling 12-month average of the unaccounted water. And you can see over the past year, it has really significantly decreased. One of our conclusions from that really, this is starting to show the implementation of the AMI system and all that. So we're really starting to decrease that unaccounted loss.
And the driving factor is they're so accurate that there's, the meters, the mechanical meters that were in the ground before, they lost accuracy over time. And if you remember back when we were promoting this, implementing these, that was one of the selling factors, was it would make all the billing accurate across the woodlands and would improve unaccounted for unmetered water.
I've been looking for proof in the pudding ever since they started advertising that. So it would be interesting if you could translate that into dollars. Probably can't do it yet. Probably need another month or two of experience. But just out of curiosity, because that's payback that we're getting. First of all, we're getting more revenue. And secondly, well, I guess we're paying more expenses too because of the metering, but it'd be interesting to see what the savings are.
My question is related to that, as each percentage of unaccounted water loss that goes down, how many gallons does that represent to us?
I can't answer it right now. We could calculate that.
Okay, just curious.
Probably no reduction in water. It's just more accurate accounting for
Maybe.
on the retail side.
It's called unaccounted for loss, but
It's a more time issue. Your error happened because you were looking at the mid-month, the full month, and then the next few days of the next month. And now you're on a month by month number of days. When you present that to the public, I think it'd be worth explaining that. There was something in our packet about how you were going to go to the public and boast about what you've done and everything and show the big savings. But I think I'd try and step back on, well, we made a mistake. Explain that mistake, because you lose credibility if you
And
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
mistake?
Well, in your explanation on 33, you were taking in dates from the previous month and part of the second month.
Okay,
Rather than, and so that that skews your result. And your error is caused as much by that as the accuracy of the instrumentation.
okay.
So I just don't think it looks good to say, well, we made a mistake without explaining. I mean, that's a very
Okay.
understandable mistake. We all can make some mistake like that, but it's just a PR
Got it.
item to consider.
As we charge less for our customers, that means that San Jacinto River Authority doesn't get as much money, but their fixed costs remain the same. So then they're gonna come ask us for an increase in water rates.
So let me make sure I understand what happened. The error was the river authorities billing us. It was not us billing the customers. The customers got the correct bill. Are you thinking that the customers were incorrectly billed at the timing?
We're
Well, they have some new meters on San Jacinto River Authority. Would you explain that? You have new meters. It used to be on the wells at San Jacinto.
I don't think I can speak on that.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about it. I don't want to tell you something wrong.
No, what I was talking about was your loss, the unknown loss of water. It didn't have anything to do with the amount of water that you're charged the price for water.
I think we're talking about
It's
two
the
different.
unaccounted loss. Yeah, we're talking about two different things.
So the meters themselves replaced old meters that weren't as accurate. So that's one thing.
On the retail side.
Correct.
Right, but it was a time span, a time apart, like maybe you'd have 6 weeks included in your unaccounted loss when really it should have only been 4. I think that's where,
And these are rolling 12 months. So each one of these lines captures 12-month time period. Not
but
just
it
a
didn't
month.
go first of the month to the end of the month for your unaccounted loss per month. According to your notes, it went, you were taking dates from a previous month and part of a second month. And that's my understanding, that's how the unaccounted loss was figured out.
We used to bill the 20th to the 20th, but y'all used to accrue for that 10 days.
Okay.
Now it's a calendar bill cycle. And it
Okay.
was in place since last September.
So you say that percent unaccounted for is a cumulative rolling average and not a monthly average?
Right, this would be the average on a rolling 12-month basis.
But it's shown every month in your report.
It's even more remarkable because let's take December 3.76. For that actual 4-week period, it's probably way below 3.76 if that's a rolling average, a weighted rolling average.
I'm looking on page 17, where you've got the rolling 12-month water loss. Those numbers have been up in the double digits over time.
He may be able to.
Which, oh, it never didn't look good. Then it was much improved and see in this month's report. On page 17.
We're on 33 and there's some question about your first bullet on kind of how the miscalculation was done and what that means. And I think that's the question right now.
Right.
Appreciate that. Like we try to explain.
Yes. I could.
So before the AMI meters, the bill, I
think around the 20th of each month. So it's 20 days from 1 month and 10 days from the prior. So in our calculation, what we had after AMI was installed is we were still using that calculation, but the billing had moved basically for the calendar month. So we were leaving off 10 days of each month for the whole year. So 120 days a year. Explain.
We started that September 22.
Right.
And I think, Jim, from our side, when it takes with the old meters, it took weeks or at least the 10 days
Week
to get
week or 10 days
to get
read.
through all that, to get through all the readings. Now it's instant. And so that's really good. But I think that's what we're saying is that when the AMIs went to instant, the old way of reporting it from SRA's side stayed the same. And now we're changed.
Would you explain the new meters at the wells?
The new meters at the well. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. The other little nuance that's not listed on here is that the well meters have the wells have two meters. One is an actual physical meter that sits at the well. The other one is a SCADA signal basically that goes to a PLC, right? A computer at that point. Some of these numbers, that's why the MOR is off so much, is because the physical meter is the one that was read instead of the PLC meter. The PLC meter is a regulatory meter that we use with Lone Star, TCQ, and everything else. The physical meter is there because it comes with the package. We're actually talking about taking them off. So some of this misreading on the MOR is because you have two meters and we pull in both data, but we only use one for recording. Well, at some point, somebody started using the other one instead of the regulatory.
And then can you just tie it back to page 17, like the 2.01% water loss from January through December?
Yeah.
And is that kind of more where we are currently at?
But I think in past reports, it's been much higher than that.
It has. So if you look on page 33, what we did for comparison is the far right columns that says MOR. That's what we reported each month. And you see it's very jagged compared to the percent unaccounted for, which is going back and us basically doing QA/QC, and that's the legit
So what's MOR stand for?
monthly operations.
All right. What's next?
Number 9.
Well, I got some
Well, we
questions
got-
as long as we're on this on page 51. You have land acquisition of 5 million, and I think we talked at the wastewater strategic planning, 6 million. So
That was brought up yesterday and Dan has an item covering a minute that also says $6 million. It's essentially in all the mixing of the numbers going back and forth. Land cost is 4.5 million. Legal and consultants and everybody else coming involved is estimated to be the other $500,000 to $1 million. So the total cost of land is expected to be 5 million. The 6 million came from because during the strategic plan, there was parts of east of Golden Road, east of wastewater plant 1 and then north of wastewater plant 1. So if you're looking on page 51, you'll see on the right-hand side where it says projects, land acquisition, 5 million, conveyance acquisition, 5 million. That 6 million is buried in both of those. The reason I say that is because land acquisition, 5 million is what we're gonna ask for y'all to vote on here in a minute and the trustees for next month. The other 5 million comes with the conveyance option to get rid of lift station 5. We know we're gonna have to acquire some land because it's a line that isn't currently there. So we're estimating at this point 5 million, which includes another $1 million that Bob talked about.
on page 50, we also have aeration basins, 2 million proposed approved project. Given the fact that we're going to be abandoning those basins presumably by 2027, Is it necessary to spend $2 million?
It's not, let me,
Yeah, run through those.
let me explain 50/50, and I apologize for being late. So on page 50, this is starting our, what I'm calling a roadmap. So we currently have funds on hand that we put on hold for various projects while we do the strategic plan. So on page 50 is showing the future facilities. Future facilities currently has about $4.6 million in there. The only project that is approved at this point in time is the aeration basins. At Plant One for just over 2 million. Agree wholeheartedly, that project is not gonna be needed going forward. So instead of spending $2 million on the aeration basin, what we're gonna be putting in the budget and proposing is that $4.6 million pays for EST number 6 that you see on the right-hand side towards the bottom. It's not entirely funded. The estimated cost is 5 to 7 million. We're gonna do a preliminary engineering to kind of shore up that number a little bit. But that 4.6 million that's in future facilities should pay the lion's share of that project, so it doesn't have to go into rates. Cash already have on hand.
So basically, you're not going to spend that 2 million on the aeration basins.
Correct. That was better use of funds to pay down the EST. On page 51, we kind of talked about that. Same conversation Bob had with the aeration basins is the same with the force main on lift station 5. It's proposed that lift station 5 goes away along with the force main. No reason to replace the force main for $5 million. So since that is cash on hand, plan to use that for land acquisition cost. The other project is the town center water line. This is a water line that runs, it's an AC water line that runs from Woodlands Parkway on Broken Mill, from Woodlands Parkway up to Lakefront or Evergreen or something. Quite a bit of area. That project is currently about $10 million. So we do not have enough cash on hand. So we've been talking about possibly issuing a bond for the AC water line replacements. We talked a little bit last year, a little bit the year before. So we're proposing to move that project to be bond funded. Move it to bond funds, that leaves that 5 million here that we can use cash on hand to pay for conveyance. So what you're seeing is we're trying to line out how we have this cash on hand and how we're going to spend it, rather than just stockpiling. And then the last page, 52, that talks about the bond that was issued in 2017. And since we have general path forward on strategic plan initiatives, it just shows strategic plan phase 2, $500,000 South Shore, which was a gravity main on hold. It goes from lift station 5 up to Woodlands Parkway. It's basically north of wastewater plant 1. And then of course, conveyance design, and we threw in there replacement design of wastewater plant 1. The attempt is to use all the money we have on hand at first before we have to go for any more bonds.
On another subject, do you know what those yellow pipes are along Grogan's Point that they're burying?
Gas line.
Gas?
Yeah, they're replacing the existing gas line that's there that's getting defunct.
And plant 3 is okay during this whole period.
Plant 3 is good. Plant 3 is the newest one. There's both plants, plant 2 and wastewater plant 3 are going to have, work done because they're still 20, 30 years plus.
But R&R funds probably.
R&R funds. And next month we'll present the project plan and you'll see plants 2 and 3 are on our plans. Okay. So excess funds on page 37. This is 37, 38, 39, and 40. This is an annual item when it exists, I guess, to say we bring to y'all. At the bottom of page 37, last paragraph to the right, you'll see FY22 has excess funds in the amount of $370,000. One of the biggest reasons we have excess funds is if you go up to the paragraph above that, there's a generator panel and everything that we had ordered early in FY22. Shipping delays and everything. Out. So part of that 370,000 we're asking to keep to pay for that $217,000 generator that got delayed. The rest of that, give or take 150,000, we're asking to keep in the general fund at the River Authority to pay for a rate model that we've never had. All the other divisions of the River Authority have a rate model to use for rate projections going forward. Rate model would have been tremendously helpful in the strategic plan going back and forth with interest rates and changes. Right now, it's very manual and accounting has to basically recreate a rate model every time. The proposal is to use these funds to make a rate model so we can actually do some better projections. There's no voting on any of these actions today. The excess funds will be at the trustees next month. You covered, right? So his item does need. Any questions for me?
So my update is going to be tied to agenda item 10, which is consider an act on giving direction to Gulf's trustee on how to vote in March for the wastewater strategic plan. So in your packet, page 35, we have 1-page summary going through the 3 stakeholder recommendations and a very quick high level. The first one is in association with the replacement of treatment plant 1, where we would be looking to move forward with a phase 2, more of an optimization type study, looking at that, what we've referred throughout as alternative 9. That is a new membrane MBR facility to replace plant 1 adjacent to the existing plant. Phase 2's some stipulations there for our consultant not to exceed $500,000. And we'd be looking at around 6-month timeframe. That 6-month timeframe though would not start until probably mid-April after we get SRA's board approval of a work order, approval and forms submitted to TWDB, because that will be the 2017 bond funds for that. So it is stated around mid-April start date for that 6-month period. Second bullet, tied to that new treatment plant, we would need the land acquisition between the existing facility east to Golden Road. So as Chris kind of explained there, we're saying, and here it's stating $6 million. Really, we're looking probably like 4.5, where we're budgeting 5 for just that wastewater plant piece of it. Then the third recommendation from stakeholder group is to proceed with preliminary engineering on the conveyance alternative, and that would be the deeper all gravity line from Lift Station 5 area south of Woodlands Parkway coming down into the new treatment facility. That should give us the ability to remove up to 5 lift stations from the system and turn that whole lower half into a gravity conveyance system. At the bottom of the page, we try to do just a little schematic of, how from this phase 1 strategic planning, what has been accomplished, which is, the planning horizon, level of service, all the alternatives that we went through, and really we decided on the MBR technology. Those are kind of the high level points coming out of phase 1. Now we're going kind of in 3 concurrent paths, one being the land acquisition program, one being continuing phase 2, the optimization, right sizing the capacity is going to be in that scope of work for the plant, refining the costs, doing some preliminary layouts, and that would all be captured in that $500,000. And then also going into the preliminary design for the conveyance, the big pieces there to start off is the route analysis. Are we going to have to acquire additional land acquisition for the conveyance routing? Is there any fatal flaws where, flow lines aren't going to be able to be tied in? How deep is the pipe going to be? And looking at survey, geotech, and starting like a 30% design on that. And I won't go into the rest of it, but further, out is when we would start doing preliminary and final design on the plant, and also final design and ground construction. So I'll leave it at that and let y'all ask any questions.
Well, I don't know how many of the directors have driven up Golden Road to look at what we're going to be buying and demolishing. But I drove up and around the north side on Golden Road, there's just about the same amount of land that has absolutely no development on it. So I sent an email to Dan asking why we didn't consider acquiring that property, which would be a whole lot easier and probably be less contention by the existing owners. So Dan, you want to explain the email that you sent to me in response to that?
Sure. So, one of the main points is we would be, pushing that plant closer to residential development in Lakeside Cove area. So there was concerns with that piece of it and having adequate buffers from that facility. Sorry, from the subdivision. We also talked a little bit about just the layout of the plant. It would be better, closer to the existing facility to where you could lay it out like north-south rather than the east-west, and how that would work. I remember, I think there was one other point too I made.
I know while you're thinking about that, we are looking to acquire that north part of the land, north of Golden Road, but not for process related items, basins and stuff. That would likely be like maintenance facilities and whatnot, because part of the bottom line here, preliminary design is to run the gravity main essentially down Golden Road. And so when it does that, we need to buy Golden Road and the north side of it to put buildings and everything.
Oh, yeah, the other point I sent in the email was kind of in regards to that layout, to where laying it out further to the north on an east-west layout, it does kind of push us further away from the effluent discharge point. And we would still have to come all the way back to the creek. So there were some challenges there. We felt the savings in land acquisition would probably be minimal over, about $200 million.
Do we anticipate pushback from the business owners on Golden Road and legal challenges?
I honestly don't know.
I guess I had the same question too. Who, because I looked at that, who actually owns that land now?
East of the plant to Golden Road.
Yeah, the one that you want to buy. the one you
So I
want to
think
purchase.
there's about 6 parcels, as far as I know, all commercial, type properties.
Have they been approached at all, or do they have no knowledge of this?
They may have,
Not from us.
yeah. We're not gonna approach anybody until the mud say go forward with it, you're approved.
What do we do if they refuse to sell from a legal standpoint?
Lawyer going to that, but essentially eminent domain.
Yeah, MUD's do have the power of eminent domain.
We do.
Well, SQA does too.
Right. Public necessity, we'll state public necessity, get the, I guess, resolution through our board that says, public necessity, then if we go that route. That is last resort, though. We don't want to go eminent domain, so.
Goal is to negotiate a fair and market price for the property.
What you agree with. Any other questions?
Yeah, I want to bring your attention to page 20. Those are the ongoing projects. And it's very interesting that your design on that sheet is over 25 million. And with 125,000 study, we're almost at 26 million. And how many of those projects do we put on competitive bid?
All of them.
All of them.
Every project we have goes out with a request for qualifications.
Well, you don't have a cost limit. In other words, you don't bid above 100,000.
Right, no, it's generally anything construction related, under 25,000, we may just get one quote, but anything above 25,000 gets 3 quotes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on the strategic plan you want to add? Oh,
I thank Bob for being on that committee because it takes considerable amount of time. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
And that brings us to the next item.
Well, you need to vote to give direction.
Yeah, you need action. Item 10.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve alternative number 9. I forget the full title of it, but that was in the packet. So I vote that we direct our trustee to vote in favor of that.
Second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
I abstain.
I wonder why.
I wonder what,
Opposed?
because direction is for me.
Motion carries. All right, item number 11, Spring Creek.
Yeah, not a whole lot to update, but we did have a funding partner meeting on January 30th. I know you attended. So we're currently working with a consultant to optimize reservoirs and the benefit cost analysis and ratios associated with those. They looked at a core model to develop those. They are going back and should be looking at how that compares to the Texas Water Development Board, PCA model. And then concurrently to that, that the consultants working on, we're also developing a stakeholder outreach plan. So looking for, who, HOAs, the village associations, politician side, who do we reach out to talk more about this project? And I think we are working towards setting up a second official, public meeting where we would capture a lot of the, people here in the Woodlands too for that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of 2 things that came out at our meeting was the public is simply not aware of it. And I talked to people in my community since Spring Creek goes right behind Grogas Point. And not a single person knew anything about the study going on. And second, another problem we had at the meeting was the resistance by the landowners there. But I was encouraged to, at least on one of the dams, I think it's Birch Creek, that we're only basically taking about 10% of the developer's property. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah, outside of what would already be in the
Yeah,
floodplain.
so if we could have a land swap or something to cover that other 10%, we may get acceptance by the developer of the housing development. But on the other side, we have the people who want to put in solar panels. And any update, anything new on that? We got a lot of resistance there and they won't even talk to us.
What do you mean, solar panels?
Hmm?
What are you talking about?
That's
Rice University.
yeah,
Right.
Rice University
Oh.
owns the property.
No, that, okay, I thought you were talking about in the houses and the.
No, there's
No,
Commercial.
Solar farm.
Did you see that, that article that, the township is studying the ponds? They've hired a company because there's complaints by the residents that, some of these ponds are not filling up and, they bought their property because of the ponds and a lot of those ponds on there are utilized for drainage. And, that might have an impact if they start, I don't know, layman terms, like a screwing with the ponds down there. Could have an impact on, the flows, frankly.
Villager or-
yeah.
Pardon?
You read your Villager this morning.
I
No, I
can't
didn't.
believe the Villager still exists.
Well,
Get it?
it was a Villager, the Chronicle, they had the article on it
Yeah.
today. That they're gonna have a big study now, they haven't done it in 10 years, about the numerous ponds we have. We call some of them lakes.
Well, there's been quite a few, other residents have gone in front of the township board in public comment. complaining about that, and so the township is,
You mean the empty ones?
yeah,
Mhm.
the ones from California that live
Well, they're
there.
full now, so
Well, they're not all full, but they are looking at, you know, like I said, some of them are used for drainage purposes.
Dan, any ideas where the second meeting might be held
We're looking at holding it here in the
in the Montgomery County side of the woods?
That's the plan. We had one meeting already, one official public meeting that was out in Waller County. So yeah, we are required to have one in the Woodlands. I would think that's the plan for the second.
Any timing on that?
Not officially, it'll probably be a couple months. Next couple months.
Okay.
There'll be adequate notices and everything go out for that too. And we're, working with Bob and others to get all the contact info for those village associations, HOAs, et cetera, to help us promote and get the notifications out for that public meeting.
Any other questions on Spring Creek? All right, item 12, the Steve Attorney's report.
Good morning, y'all. Brian apologizes that he couldn't be here today. He had 2 meetings this morning, so he has to miss this one in Mud 60. But I do not have anything specific on the attorney's report today.
All right, thank you. Item 13, consider adoption and the resolution concerning development.
This is one of my items too. We're gonna defer on this. The district's engineer is still working on the exhibit that gets attached to this resolution. And that exhibit is ultimately how we determine whether you're a developed or a developing district. And so we usually try to adopt this resolution early in the year. We don't actually need it until before we set taxes in August and September, but we should be able to approve it next month once they finish those exhibits.
All right, thank you. Item 14, discuss one water task force.
We put this on your agenda, I think last month, it was requested to be on there. I will tell you that I may have reported last month that I was contacted by Dr. Ann Snyder about this topic and provided her some information that was going to be reviewed during a planning session with the new board. I did visit with her this morning. At the first planning session, they weren't able to get to this, but it is on the agenda for the second planning session, first week in March. So she has some interest in bringing it up to the new board or the current board and seeing if there's any desire to kind of reorganize this effort.
Well, I will say the last board was not enthusiastic about it. They just went through the motions and it was just sort of a session. People could get together and drink coffee and maybe have a cookie or two. And that's the impression that I had. And so.
and say that
yeah.
everything was MUD's responsibility.
Yeah.
As that
No.
election was coming up right now.
But as the first chairman of that committee, and Bob was there, you were there parts of the time, I would encourage them to bring this back. And there was just so much good communication that was being had by the various entities, including Harris County and all those, that at least we were at the same table for a while and we're able to discuss some important issues to the community. So yes, I'm all in favor of them getting.
And I conveyed that exact sentiment to Dr. Snyder. Now, I did say, I don't know that it needs to be a monthly meeting, but a quarterly would probably be a good thing.
Yeah.
It needs to have a purpose, though. My impression after, representing the MUDs on the board was it was primarily a vehicle for the township board members to get reelected. And that was a very sad outcome. There was a lot of work that could have been done right after Harvey and our, tax day floods.
Yes.
And nothing really, to my mind, was accomplished other than that cross county communication, which I think was very good. It really did show the lack of structure here in Montgomery County for dealing with flooding issues, and whereas Harris County seemed to have more of a vehicle in their flood control district. And so if they don't, have a set deliverable, I wouldn't be in favor of starting it up again. If they can say this is what we need to accomplish, go for it. That's a good idea. But it's going to be hard to get citizens to participate and then be disappointed again when nothing happens. It's like being on the transportation task force. I had a bike plan, never was funded.
That's right.
So the citizens are busy, they have busy lives, they want to participate, but they want to see something come out of it too. And it didn't happen with One Water.
Well, Dr. Bostic, how did they handle this in Baton Rouge?
They actually had a moratorium on building. They also had a 2D model that you could put in an address, because in 2013, my old neighborhood, Sherwood Forest, which was a very, was where a lot of the industrial or the corporate people lived, a very nice neighborhood, and it ended up with 3 feet of water in it because of construction north and to the east of that location. And so Baton Rouge has done a very active program in trying to mitigate any chance of that happening again. It's very impressive, and the people that gave a lot of support. Of course, if you have FEMA trailers living in a fairly nice community, you have evidence that something needs to be done. What happens though, if you don't do something and show that you're doing some kind of preventative measures, the word gets out and relocation experts won't bring new people in. And that's what I think the Woodlands has to be aware of. That if we let this go on too long and not have anything done for flood prevention and mitigation, the word will get out, and this will not be the place where corporate people will be transferred. So enough soapboxing, but it is a concern for the future in South Montgomery County for me.
I think we're wasting our time though, waiting on the township board. I think this is something that maybe the board of trustees need to discuss. We have 10 MUDs, and I think if we take the lead on it, we can show that it's a regional concept. It's not localized, and that it happens down at Creekside Park with 386. Affects Grogan's Point and Timber Ridge, Timber Lakes, and things of that nature. And if we wait on them, there's nobody there that probably that has any of the experience that we have within the MUDs, and the contacts and the understanding of that water is a regional issue, and then somehow we need to bring the county involved. We need to get them onto knowing the fact that you need to take the lead from Harris County. They've been doing this since 1937. They have a pretty good plan on how, they still have a lot of flooding, but it's at least they're at the table. At least they recognize that they have issues. We're not even at the table. We're still those, as Reeser put it one time, well, only 200 homes flooded. And that's
200 too many.
yeah. If you're one of those 200, but how many times did we see a resident come to the One Water Task Force telling about how when it rained, their child was, crying because they thought they were going to get flooded again. for the people to spend all that money redoing their homes in Grogan's Point and Creekside Park down there that are gonna get flooded again. I don't know, Jim. I mean, you know, I think it's great, you know, for his want to bring the thing back up, but, you know, I don't know, I just think we're the ones gonna have to drive it. Cause all they're gonna do, they'll talk about it, you know, and you know, yeah, we need to do something, but I don't think they know how to do it.
Understood.
The county must have a task force because they got a big, huge grant to buy out homes. And they're in the process now of buying out more homes. And the only thing close to us is Timber Lakes, Timber Ridge. But I don't know if Woodlands asked for any buyouts on any of our homes. And of course, I don't have any knowledge on Harris County where they had considerable flooding of Woodlands properties. So I don't know who's following up on that at the township level. You know, we've had homes in South Panther Creek that flood over and over and over, and we bought out lots there to build a park. And we got it from the developers, and we built a park because they'd been consistently flooding there in South Panther Creek all the time. And I don't know, I've never heard of a buyout of a home in the Woodlands.
And I think the reason is to reach the buyout category, the flooding has to be more substantial.
It had to
in
be
the-
many times, yes.
Each time has to be past the threshold, and typically Woodlands homes don't.
And the owner has to agree.
Yes.
And there's the big problem in the Woodlands. You know, I don't think people in Grogan's Point want to sell out at market value.
There's at least one home in Grogan's Point had over $250,000 damage. And much of that was related to the pool and other stuff outside the house that was not covered by insurance. So the homeowner was really pretty upset, but obviously he had the resources to take care of it. So to amplify what Hartley's talking about, I think Montgomery County has a budget of 67 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
And they've spent 27 million so far. And they're buying some homes in River Plantation and then a bunch of homes in Timber Ridge, Timber Lakes. So
But the people have really liked those homes because the developer gets enough money to completely redo them. New guy moves in and he can move them into a fresh, brandly redone home and up the rent. And they're having a hard time getting them to sell.
And those homes typically in Timber Lakes, Timber Ridge, and in River Plantation are actually deep inside the floodplain.
They are.
Woodlands homes are not. They are above the floodplain and just don't experience the same damage that.
except for Grogan's Point, that is now in the floodplain.
But part of the One Water Task Force is to look at the overall area,
Yeah.
which is affected. And what we're gonna continually be affected is all the building going around it. You know, I think this whole thing was really started by Mike Bass, you know, when the Dale Webb thing started up there. I mean, that's really what started all the thing. And then wasn't long after that, you know, Harvey, you know, happened, and then they had all those people show up, you know, at the township meeting, and then, you know, Reeser just said, well, we're volunteers, you know, and well, it doesn't help those 200 people that were flooded either.
Well, we dug out Lake Woodlands and put all of the fill dirt on East Shore to build it up 4 feet, and that got them out of the floodplain. Okay, and that's now our garden area.
We and we asked a discussion from the Board of Trustees on what their opinion is of this.
Yes, sir.
Harley, you're on there for us. I'd
Well,
like to make a motion that you
Yeah,
discuss.
15, you're on 15,
Yeah, well, 14.
14.
14. I'm not on a task force.
You're not on a task
No.
force, but it's not a task force.
Are we on 15?
14.
We're on 14 yet.
That's right after
Discuss one
13.
water task force. I think we've discussed it.
At the trustees meeting?
No, we never discussed it at trustee meeting. We passed over. it.
Do we need a motion to have the trustees discuss it? Or
can
do we
ask.
just recommend that they,
That's what I was trying to get to. but
Well, either that or-
if we're on 14 or
We
15.
can politely ask or we can,
I'd like to make a motion that we put it on the agenda for the Board of Trustees to have a discussion on if we should take the lead on the One Water Task Force.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Will do.
All right, item 15. Consider an act on district customer communication.
In your
Okay.
packet is a sample of what MUD 47 has done. MUD 60 is looking at something similar. And I thought it was appropriate to put this agenda item on all the MUDs to give you an opportunity to see what another is
Now,
doing.
who's putting that one together? Is the president putting that together? Her job is to develop things like that. And she was hired by Panther Creek Village Association at one time to handle their website. So I can see her finger on that very,
You're
no,
talking Laura Norton.
yeah, more and more.
And what we did, with our communications person, John Geiger, we developed a template that if other MUDs were interested in doing something similar to this, we would hope that we could use the similar format if that was something y'all wanted to move forward with.
Yeah, I don't think we have ever had any resident come to us and say they didn't have enough information on the current website for WWA at the MUD. Has anyone had anyone say that they needed more information? And how much does MUD 47 pay for having that website done?
Well, this is not a website, it's just a letter, a flyer, an email, a social media document that went out
Oh,
in there. Yeah, not a new website, just.
so it looks like a website, doesn't it?
It has some characteristics, but it wasn't. It was a piece of paper and an
Okay,
insert into
okay.
the water bill and just.
Well, we have one that we send out to everybody once a year, tells the water quality.
We did.
And you say that we could put something in the same envelope with no additional charge.
But this is on the website, correct? I mean, this is
Eventually-
it goes to the people that are on the email address for MUD 47, and all the MUDs have those email addresses, right?
Right.
So if we did something like this, it would go out on an email blast to the residents of MUD
Would
1.
be targeted for MUD 1, correct?
I think it's a good idea.
I do too. It's very effective, and as now that we don't have the villager beyond a bunch of advertisements, I think it's incumbent upon the MUDs to try to get that kind of information out. I would be surprised if anybody of the people that I see walking our walking circle in Panther Creek have any idea who even sits on the board of MUD 1. You know, the information, as long as they're getting their water and their sewage taken care of, there isn't a whole lot of interest. But I think if they saw something like this in their water bill, that would perk up some interest.
Well, something like this, though, is a proactive approach that you're doing something. And before something happens. I mean, at least people know that, there is a mud board, there are things that are going on, there's some good things that are happening, and there are some things that we're looking at. And at least that, lets people know that you're opening the lines of communication with them.
Well, they have a special committee on the WWA that is very active right now on public information. And this, if we decide to do something, I can guarantee it's going to be duplicated by that committee.
Did you say that John has this format?
John Geiger developed this template, yes.
All right, so if we set up a couple of us to get with John with the feed and with the information, he can take that and put it in this format
That
and
is
shoot it
correct.
out.
Yes.
Okay,
Might be, we were talking about the study of detention on Spring Creek, the Walnut Creek and Birch Creek, maybe some reference could be made to that and something like that.
Well, how often do they plan to put on that flyer?
Mud 47 plans to do it once a year.
Okay, I don't mind that. And who wants to be in charge of coordinating that?
Ellen, would you work with it?
I
on it?
can't do it right now. I can't make that commitment, sorry.
Work with on it?
Work with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion that we generate a once a year or twice a year format like this, and Jeff and Walt will take the lead on it.
And I'll
Well,
fit in.
you're,
Love to join in.
you are,
All right,
all,
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Could I just make one comment? It needs to be really simple and easy to read. This is very well done.
it's quick.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, we do 20 good things, but let's don't list them all. Let's list the highlights.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Item number 16, received the general manager's report.
A few items to highlight from the trustee meeting, the audit committee / merchant service fee ad hoc committee. Well, first of all, you may remember a few months back, there was a discussion regarding the merchant service fees that are charged, that are paid by the MUDs to do electronic bill processing payments. There was some concern that maybe we could do something to lower those fees, or even some suggested having the customer pick up a portion of that fee. The ad hoc committee is making a recommendation that analysis be put on pause, because Marine is working with a new vendor for water billing where those fees might become much less and more standardized. And so they would like to just pause that for now. Paul Martin did report that the year-end report audit for the Woodlands Water Agency revealed our reserves were at a point where no refunds would be made back to the MUDs. There was a resolution produced a number of years ago that if our reserves were in a range, I think 1.5 to 2.5 months to 2 months, that everything would remain as is, and that's the status for this year. In your packet, there's a couple of pieces of correspondence regarding the position 7, the vacant position 7 at Lone Star Groundwater District. Our president of the Woodlands Water Agency, Bob Lux, had sent a letter to Lone Star, and they had responded to that. So it's still in limbo, I guess, would be the term.
I'd like to add to that. I wrote a personal letter to the board of directors of Lone Star about two things. One about John Yours supporting him, and the other addressing something that Chairman Spigner had brought up, that they want to put in these extensometers at not their expense, our expense, to more accurately measure subsidence. And it's going to take years after they put it in to start getting results. So I suggested in the letter that they put a moratorium on increasing groundwater pumping until they get all these extensometers installed. And I really hit a nerve.
Oh,
Right, yes.
And he came back with a multi-page letter with copies to every known politician in the state of Texas that can spell water. And I meant to copy and have it distributed, but I'll have it for the next meeting. But I thought it was really interesting all the time that he took. He must have spent hours writing that response. So we'll see where that goes.
So you don't have his Christmas card list anymore?
I think so.
The only other thing I have is a nice compliment email on page 65. One of our employees is always happy to share those with you.
Yeah, those are nice. They do nice. Any questions for the general manager? All right. Number
I
17.
did forget to highlight one thing. The personnel committee did meet prior to the trustee meeting and reviewed what is referred to as general manager's special focus projects for the year. We're working on finalizing that document that would be shared when it's finalized with the trustees and others.
Okay. Harley?
I would bring your attention to, we have a representative on a Regional H Water Planning Group, which is former MUD Director Arthur Biederhoff. And he gave a nice report, and the information is in here. Now, do you know who's president of that now? It used to be the head of San Jacinto River Authority.
It was at one point, I'm not sure, I don't keep up with that. I'll let you know.
I think it's Mark Evans with the North Harris County Regional Water Authority.
Okay.
That's what I.
Okay, San Jacinto River Authority used to have complete control over this region, and did all the work that was done. And there are state laws that require them to do certain things, and the projections for water usage by commercial and individuals is very important. And it goes into the state system, which state has a overall plan. Other than that, there's nothing that isn't in there. It hasn't been covered.
All right, thank you. 18, recess in the closed session. We have nothing. Okay, 19, reconvene. Number 20, discuss matters of placement on future agendas.
Well, we need to cover item 7 on the agenda.
Yes, item
In 13, 7 and 13.
13.
All right, so that's on for the future agenda.
Before you adjourn, I wanted to talk to Mike Moody. You remember the ditch behind my lot that you finally went in there and regraded and did everything? I thought it was way more than adequate, but I found out we had two rains in my area. One was 5 inches over a little longer period, and the second one was 5 inches over a shorter period. And that one filled that ditch bank to bank. So I did a little investigation. Obviously concerned because I doubt it rated higher than a 5-year storm, but it was a lot, obviously. And part of it was starting to ease back into my yard because of on the upper end of it. But I went down, and it takes a 90-degree bend to go to Water Tree. At that 90-degree bend, one of the previous owners of the house there built a fence across the ditch. You not only have the 90-degree, but you have a fence there that may impede some of the flow, and it was starting to back it up my way, which wasn't comfortable. But anyway, someone might want to look at that fence, and there may have been some debris in there. I couldn't get down there because it was really.
Maybe even on this property.
Oh, it was not on his property. It is, part of it's on the Woodlands property and part of it is the MUD's easement. He built that wrought iron fence and whatever else there across there. We found out later he violated all kinds of rules and just built wrought iron fence wherever the blazes he wanted them. So, there's a new owner now, that's trying to rehab a house.
Surprised the new owner could buy it with all those illegal,
I don't know how it happened.
I think could sell it without getting that.
Yeah, because a lot of that is not on his property. It's up against the, I think, the easement for the MUD to some degree. I don't know what happened. Anyway, that family didn't care about the rules anyway, so.
All right. Any other items on future agenda? All right. Before we adjourn, Eric, welcome. Like to our meeting. Jim, I don't think we can have enough words out there to describe what a great job you've done for us over the years.
Thank you very much. I